very emotional.
Yeah. Your parents. 와이프의 best friend.
That felt really amazing. 운명이다.
What's up YouTube? 안녕하세요, 누꺄맨입니다. 오늘 영상은 제가 와이프를 어떻게 만났는지에 대하여 한번 얘기해볼까 하는데요. 한번 시작해보도록 하겠습니다.
Alright, so before we met, where were we and what were we doing?
제가 와이프 만나기 전에는 군대 전역을 하고 나서 장교 전역을 했거든요. 그리고 이제 그 모아둔 돈으로 이제 유학을 가고 싶었어요. 그래서 이제 밴쿠버를 가게 돼요. 그리고 밴쿠버에서 한 1년 반 정도 공부하고 그리고 일을 하게 됐어요. 그래가지고 그 다음에는 뭐 할까 이제 고민을 많이 하다가 원래는 이제 캐나다에 오래 이제 지낼 계획이었는데 이제 저희 고용주도 그랬고 스폰서를 해준다고 그랬어요. 그래갖고 기회가 있었지만 그래서 가족이 너무 보고 싶어가지고 어딘가 모르게 계속 한국으로 돌아가야 된다 그런 생각이 계속 들더라고요. 그래가지고 일단은 비행기 끊고 이제 돌아가게 되었어요. 네, 그리고 이제 한국에 돌아가서는 캐나다 대학원을 생각하게 되었어요. 그래가지고 캐나다 같은 경우는 IELTS를 많이 보거든요. 그래서 IELTS 공부를 이제 하기 위해서 영어 회화 같은 수업을 듣게 됐죠. 네.
So before I went to Korea the first time, I just graduated college and I was trying to decide what do I do for a job. I had a lot of student loans, as many American graduates do. So I knew my friends were making some money and having good lives teaching English abroad. They recommended somewhere in Asia. I was trying to choose between China and Korea and Japan. And I really wasn't sure, except my only reason to go to Korea was that it seemed like it was the most American-friendly country of the three. And I don't mean to say that to be like, oh, China's not friendly, Japan's not friendly, but just something about, maybe it was that the two countries have a really good relationship.
Yeah, they are allies.
Right? Yeah. Maybe that was my reasoning, but I was like, it seems like it might be the easiest for me to transition to Korea of all those places, and that was really the gut feeling that I went on. So I went to Korea. I found through a recruiter, a hagwon, where I would work, and they set everything up for me. I had my apartment, I had my plane ticket, I arrived, and I worked teaching kindergarten through elementary age kids for 1 year, and that was in Gwangju, and that was one of my favorite times in my life. It was so peaceful, it was so joyful, I was learning a lot about myself. Yeah, I feel like I blossomed. I feel like I just became more of who I was meant to be, and it was a really good year. I was single that whole time. It was just me, and I made some friends there. And then, so that was the first time. And what I realize now in hindsight is that I was going this way to Korea and you were going that way to Canada the same year. We went this in the air. And I think that's so interesting that you had this spirit for this hunger for adventure, and I did too, and we both went to the opposite hemisphere to look for that. So the second time I went to Korea and this time it happened to be his hometown. I didn't know him, but I had some really good friends that lived there because Gwangju and Jinju are really close to each other. I had visited a lot. I knew about a school there that I wanted to teach at. It was a university, and I happened to get a job, and so I came back a second time. I really felt a lot of peace. I think the big reason to go back was financial, because I knew I could get a job. I still had loans to pay off. I couldn't get a job in the US, but I also felt like God was leading me back to Korea a second time, to Jinju specifically, and I was like, okay, I don't really know why, but I feel peace to go. I know that I can live in Korea well, and I'm looking forward to what the next chapter is.
그리고 여기서 웃긴 게 있는데 제가 캐나다에서 공부하고 이제 일하다가 한국에 돌아왔을 때 그 이제 대학에 있는 어학당 같은 게 있어요. 거기 앞에서 이제 외국인 친구 만날 거라고 첫 번째로 만났던 두 친구가 웃긴 게 와이프의 best friend.
Yeah, my best friend from high school.
깜짝 놀랐어요. 나중에 이제 알게 됐는데.
That's wild. That's wild. My best friend from high school. We went to separate colleges, but then we both were like, hey, let's go work in Asia. Let's go work in Korea teaching English. She went to Jinju, and then he happened to meet them. That felt really amazing. 운명이다. How did we meet? So I had just gotten a job at this university in Jinju to teach English. I was teaching freshman English 101. This is how you speak English. Hello, how are you? Like the basic stuff. And then I was also teaching, that was in the morning. In the evening, I was teaching conversation classes for adults. And I first had to sit in with the other teachers and see how they conducted interviews for level placement. And I was sitting with one of my coworkers who, she's funny. She's very like direct and but still kind, and she was very business-like with her interviews, and I was watching her do so well, you know, placing these students and chatting with them, kind of gathering their level competency. And then Nook walks in. I had been warned by my boss, now you're gonna be teaching the level 4 class, which is the highest fluency. And they do that for every new teacher because they want the new teachers to get integrated into the culture and like the city and like make friends right away. So I knew that it was all right to be like friendly and warm with these people, but he was like, but don't date anybody. And I was like, I'm not gonna.
Don't date your student.
Don't date your student. That's what he meant. Don't date your student. And I was like, I'm not really interested. I wasn't really planning on doing that. But then Nook walked in the door and we were gonna interview him, and he was like, bing, like really shiny. He had like big hair. You're tall compared to a lot of other Koreans. You're tan compared to a lot of other Koreans. So like my first impression was, oh, this guy's really cute, and you had really like good shiny smile. Yeah, just everything about you to me was very attractive, and you had this joy. You walked in the room and you were smiley, you were kind, you were warm, and I was just like, oh, that's a nice dude. But I was not conducting the interview, I was just listening. And so I was very quiet. I was just like watching and observing. And then the next time I started class, there he was sitting there, and I was like, oh gosh, that cute guy's in my class. And so I was a little uncomfortable just because I knew I was attracted to him, and I was told like, don't date anybody, don't date your student. I was like, okay, I'm not. And I found out pretty soon after you started the class that you were actually dating somebody else at the time. And so I was like, okay, off limits, like whatever. Still, I was very drawn to you because I just like being around you. And as I conducted the conversation classes, I was supposed to like spread out my time between all the students, but I found myself just gravitating towards your group every time. I was like, what's he gonna say? I'm so curious. And you're very fun with your classmates, so that was also a great part of the class. I thought our whole group was really enjoyable. No, I did not show too much partiality to him, but we had a great time all together. And then it was a few weeks into the class, and I noticed you would hang around. You'd like wait back after class and try to talk to me. And so we'd like walk out in the evening, and then conversation kept going, and I was like, hey, look, where do you go? Because you seem like you're going someplace after you talk about going to a coffee shop, right? And I was being very bold, and I was like, well, you want company? I could hang out with you, that'd be fun, right? So I invited myself along to your coffee shop study time, and then we just talked, and good for you, that was more free English, wasn't it?
yeah.
But
the whole purpose was to learn English for me, like 영어 연습하고, 그리고 나는 이제 한국말 가르치고.
No.
거의 안 했나?
You never taught me Korean. That was all on my own. Are you kidding? You can't frame it like that. No. So, but we were friends. We were friendly, and I was like, he's got a girlfriend, so I'm just gonna keep this super platonic. And then very soon after we were hanging out, so they ended up breaking up, and I was like, okay, are you okay? And you were like, yeah, I think I'm okay. It was like a fast track since then. Then it was like we spent a lot of time together. Goodness, a lot of things happened. You were still my student for like the 6th week of the last week of the class, and you're like, oh, let's go to a movie. And I was like, I can't date you because you're my student. And you were like, a movie's not a date. And I was like, yes it is, a movie's a date. So here I was just trying to be platonic at first. And then the class ended and we were still hanging out. At one point you did take me to a movie, and that's when you held my hand. Do you remember?
Right.
We had been laughing about something before the movie started, and then we realized like suddenly we were holding hands, and my heart was like, I was like, oh my gosh, he's holding my hand. And I don't remember a thing about the movie. So we held hands, and then I was like, oh gosh, we're getting serious. And oh, one evening we were walking around the campus, and you turned to me and you're like, because you're my girlfriend, da 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 da, and you just threw it in there. It wasn't the point of the sentence, it was like a background to the sentence. And I said, excuse me, did you just call me your girlfriend? And you're like, yeah, are you my girlfriend? And I was like, okay. So then we were dating. So the timeline actually went really quickly. Yeah, I'm just like hitting all the highlights that I can think of. At one point I got food poisoning so badly. I was in the hospital and it was so embarrassing how sick I was. But you were not ashamed and you stayed with, like you cared for me and you took me to the hospital, and it was like 4 a.m. and you were sleeping, like holding my hand with your head on the hospital bed, and then you took me back home, and I lived. But my goodness, I knew at that moment, like, wow, this guy, he had already said, like, I think I love you, but I was like, no, you don't know love. What are you talking about? But it was that moment.
You don't know love.
You were very free with that. I was excuse me? This is too early.
Yeah.
But then the hospital stay where I was so sick, you were so unashamed to take care of me. You were so unfazed. You just did it. You were very diligent. To me, that spoke volumes, and I knew, okay, this guy can be trusted, and I think I could really care for him because he's proving that he can stick with me no matter what. Like, most people would have run. They would have been like, gross. Bye. But you're great.
이제 보면 알잖아요. 이제 나도 이 친구한테 감정이 있다. 그래가지고 이렇게 서로 이제 감정이 생기고 나니까 이제 그런 이제 공식적인 선언은 그렇게 크게 필요 없다고 생각을 했어요. 그리고 한번 아팠을 때 그때는 너무 엄청 많이 아팠었어요. 그래갖고 좀 외국에 살면서 이제 혼자 또 아프게 되면 좀 서럽잖아요. 그래갖고 그때 아플 때 막 토도 하고 막 길가에서 정말 힘들었는데 이제 저한테 연락도 하고 그래가지고 병원을 가가지고 하룻밤을 지냈었죠. 그리고 그때 문자도 장난처럼 처음으로 이제 보냈어요.
Really?
나는 누군데 이제 와이프가 지금, 그때 와이프는 아니니까 여자친구가 지금 아파서 병원에 있다. 잘 케어할 테니까 걱정 마라, 이렇게 안심을 시켜드렸죠.
Yeah, and by that time I knew, like, oh, I think I want to marry this guy. We've been talking about marriage soon after the hospital dilemma. I don't know if you remember that. So then, out of the blue, you were like, I'm gonna go visit your parents in the US. I just got a ticket. And I said, excuse me, I can't go with you. I have to work. And you're like, it's okay. I'm gonna go by myself. Right? You remember?
So I basically announced it to you.
You announced
without telling
everything.
me.
This guy, I love him, but the communication isn't always there. And he just announces things. He's like when he would thinking he's being romantic and we're walking along and he wants to hold my hand, he's not like just like caressing, like hold my hand. He's not like, can I hold your hand? He's like, son. And I'm like, ugh. Okay. This is what I deal with. So yeah, you announced everything to me.
Okay.
And I was really sad that I couldn't go because my family is really fun and I knew that they would have a good time, but also I was knowing, oh, he's gonna go see my family because he wants to introduce himself and ask, can I marry your daughter? And yeah, you should go ahead with that.
장모님, 장인어른 이제 첫인상 이제 잘 보이기 위해서 막 에어플레인, 비행기 안에서 막 그 정장 딱 차려입고 이제 갔죠.
It's a long time to wear a suit in an
엄청,
airplane.
거의 한 몇 시간이죠? 한 16시간 정도
It's really like 20 hours. Yeah.
그래가지고 이제 내리고 나서 이제 장모님, 장인어른이 딱 있더라고요. 그래가지고 정말
I will say that impressed them.
그랬던 것
They
같아요.
appreciate being honored and respected, and you are all about honoring and respecting people regardless. So wearing a suit just showed them non-verbally that you're very serious about meeting them, that you want to impress them, that you like it seems like a minor thing, but it's a first impression, and so it's a major thing. If you had just like rolled out in your sweatpants, they would have been like, oh yeah, I'm sure he's fine. They would have been fine because they like you because you're likable. But you wore a suit, and that was like communicating to them, I'm the real deal.
제가 가는 목적이 있었기 때문에 긴장을 했었죠. 그때 미국에 왔을 때 참 고맙게도 이제 와이프가 이제 그 처제 처형들이 있어요. 이제 딸이 넷인데 3명 모두 다 이제 저를 보려고 이제 그때 처갓집으로 다 온 거예요. 그래가지고 같이 좋은 시간 잘 보냈죠. 그 일주일 동안. 네.
I was so jealous because you all were sending me pictures like, look, we're having fun.
Yeah.
Look, we're at the Nationals baseball game. Look, we're like, you were doing all these fun things together, and I was like, I have to work for myself in Korea. I want to have fun with you guys. However, if I had been there, I think maybe I would have been tempted to be very controlling of everything. Like, is everybody having a good time? Inuk, can you understand them? Are they understanding you? And like I probably would have been making it worse, honestly. So it was great, actually, that you were brave enough to go, and that my family is very loving and welcoming, and I'm so pleased that they welcomed you because my family's white, and although I have like cousins that have married people who are not white, nobody else in my family ended up with someone who is not white. So I guess that was always in the back of my mind, like, is this really going to be okay for my family that I could potentially be marrying someone who is Asian, or I wasn't sure what kind of person I would marry. I was open to anybody, but it just so happened this guy is Korean. What is really heartwarming to see is my family fully embrace you, and now they're always like, oh, Inuk, tell us about this food, tell us about this holiday, tell us about your culture, how do you say this in Korean? And my family even tries to like speak a little Korean now and then, and yeah, it's just really sweet to see how deeply they love you. And my mom has even cried telling me like, that's my son. That's my son. And she's very proud of Inuk. She's always bragging like, my son-in-law is Korean, and we celebrate Chuseok, and he makes us good food, and there's kimchi, and she like really enjoys sharing that with other people, and she's very proud of you.
하나도 안 변했어요.
Oh, you're very emotional.
Yeah. Your parents.
Yeah, they love you a lot.
Very loving.
Yeah.
거의 한 7년 정도 같이 시간을 보냈는데 처음이랑 지금이랑 똑같아요. 그리고 이렇게 항상 저를 이제 다른 사람이잖아, 사실 미국 사람도 아니고. 그런데 저희가 항상 이렇게 똑같이 이렇게 embrace 해준다는 게 참 쉽지 않은데 항상 이렇게 오픈 마인드로 저를 이렇게 보살펴줘서 참 감사해요. Love you, father and mom.